A supposedly dead woman mysteriously appears at her own funeral, revealing that her husband hired a hitman to kill her. Now, she returns to face those who betrayed her. In the city of Seattle, Evelyn Marks's life seemed to be a perfect fairy tale. Elegant, intelligent, and successful, Evelyn ran a small event planning business that gave her stability and fulfillment. Alongside her husband, Adam Marks, a real estate businessman to whom she had been married for more than 10 years, her life seemed complete. However, behind appearances, Evelyn hid growing doubts and deep suspicions about Adam's character. He was manipulative, had unpredictable attitudes, and Evelyn had begun to notice subtle signs that he was keeping secrets. It all fell apart one rainy night, when Evelyn found herself trapped in a freak car accident. When she regained consciousness, she found herself locked in an isolated hut. At first, she thought she had been saved, but she soon realized that she was there for a dark reason. Roy Wheeler, a well-known mercenary, held her captive, relying on Adam's ingenious plan to simulate a fatal accident. The plan was to make her disappear without a trace, making it easier for Adam to hide his illicit transactions and ensure control of all his assets. Evelyn, however, was tougher than Adam and Roy imagined. Taking advantage of Roy's carelessness, she fled the cabin, walking miles until she got help and started her life in hiding again. For weeks, Evelyn plotted her return without Adam suspecting, gathering evidence of her crimes and the betrayal that almost cost her her life. The suspense reaches its peak on the morning of his own funeral, when Adam, surrounded by friends and family, plays the role of a bereaved widower. But when he looks up, he sees Evelyn, alive and determined, standing at the door of the church. His pale face reveals shock, and the crowd murmurs, unable to comprehend what is happening. Entering the church hall where her funeral was being held, Evelyn felt a mixture of triumph and bitterness. The place was packed with family, friends, and people who only knew superficially about the marriage she and Adam appeared to be having. Everyone believed that Evelyn was a tragic accident victim, but the silence became overwhelming as her heels echoed across the marble, and eyes turned to her in disbelief. Adam stood still, staring at Evelyn with an expression of panic that he tried futilely to hide. But Evelyn remained calm and walked over to him, ignoring the growing murmur around her. The dead woman was back, and she brought with her secrets capable of destroying everything Adam had built. To those present, Evelyn briefly explained that she had been the victim of an attack and had managed to survive. And looking coldly at Adam, he said that, in time, everyone would know the truth about the accident and the true character of the man who stood next to him at the church altar. Under the curious and suspicious looks, Adam showed a forced smile, but Evelyn could see the sweat that accumulated on his forehead. As Evelyn walked through the church, her thoughts went back to a few months before the incident, when signs of Adam's treacherous behavior began to become evident. He was constantly away, always claiming to be traveling on business or busy with work. However, Evelyn learned of meetings in suspicious places with men involved in the black market, and rumors about his connection to illicit practices began to spread among acquaintances. Suspicious, Evelyn hired a private detective to investigate her husband's activities. It was then that she discovered that Adam was embezzling large sums of money and making illegal deals to expand his empire. The plan to eliminate Evelyn, as she would later discover, was to prevent her from taking any legal action that could threaten her empire. The second crucial character in this story was Roy Wheeler. Coming from a humble and former military family, Roy had entered the world of crime due to his skill in risky operations and his apparent indifference towards his victims. Adam hired him to handle Evelyn's discreet elimination. The plan was to kidnap her, simulate an accident, and dispose of her body in a remote forest so that no one would ever find any trace of her again. Location and social climate details. The city of Seattle, with its rainy climate and a cityscape of contrasts, reflects the duality of Evelyn and Adam. During the day, Adam appeared to be a respectable businessman in his glass offices in the heart of the city. At night, the damp, shadowy atmosphere of alleys and speakeasies hid the real Adam, involved in conspiracies and dangerous negotiations. Evelyn, on the other hand, always took advantage of the anonymity that Seattle offered to discreetly investigate Adam's transactions and seek evidence of his corruption. And now, after her miraculous return, she would use the city to her advantage again, planning every step to expose what Adam really was. In the church, under the suspicious eyes of the guests, Evelyn began to see who was on Adam's side, not out of love, but out of interest in his illegal business network. Evelyn's presence at his own funeral sent Adam into a spiral of despair he never imagined. After the initial shock at the church, he began to act cautiously, fearing that Evelyn could reveal at any moment compromising details about his schemes. Adam knew he needed to react quickly, but he didn't count on Evelyn's determination. In the following days, Evelyn decided not to confront him directly, at least not yet. Instead, she launched a meticulous plan to dismantle everything Adam had built. The first part of his plan was to seek the trust of people who worked directly with him, the same people Adam manipulated and controlled to keep his secrets. With her keen organization and observation skills, Evelyn began to approach strategic contacts, insinuating that she knew much more than she was willing to say at that moment. Adam, now cornered, tried several times to talk to Evelyn. He called incessantly and even waited for her in the parking lot of his old office. But Evelyn kept her distance, letting him suffocate in his own insecurity. She wanted him to experience the same terror she felt while being held under the mercenaries' control. During one of these forced encounters, Adam followed her to a coffee shop, begging for a chance to talk. Evelyn stared at him for a few seconds, analyzing the desperate look of the man she once thought was her partner, before simply saying, "To talk? I wish I had that chance before I was left for dead, Adam." As Evelyn progressed in her mission to expose Adam, he found himself pressured into making increasingly risky decisions. He tried to intimidate her with veiled threats and even appealed to her family, trying to convince them that Evelyn had been acting unbalanced since the accident. However, she had been clear with everyone from the beginning. The accident that took her out of the picture was not a mere chance, and the evidence began to slowly come to light, with recordings, documents, and accounts she had gathered to prove Adam's fraud. Evelyn was also faced with unexpected challenges. Roy Wheeler, the mercenary, discovered that she was alive and had returned. Until then, he remained in the shadows, awaiting Adam's final payment, which was never made. Unaware of the tense reunion between Evelyn and Adam, Roy tracked her down and attempted to intimidate her, promising that she would not survive again. But Evelyn, determined to protect herself, confronted Roy in a risky encounter, revealing that she knew his secrets and that she would not hesitate to expose him to the authorities if he approached him again. With each step Evelyn took to unmask Adam, he tried new strategies to control the narrative. He even manipulated the media, publishing distorted versions of Evelyn's story, portraying her as an emotionally unstable wife who had faked her own disappearance. But the community in Seattle, now divided, was becoming suspicious. Friends, acquaintances, and colleagues of the couple had already heard rumors of Adam's dark behavior, and the new evidence brought by Evelyn only confirmed the suspicions that were already circulating in secret. The situation became untenable for Adam when Evelyn, with the help of a former contact from his own office, gained access to accounting documents detailing illegal fund transfers. She knew that this was the key piece to proving all her allegations. Adam realized he was losing control. In a desperate attempt, he set a trap to lure Evelyn to an isolated location where he thought about solving everything once and for all. But Evelyn didn't go alone. Knowing Adam's history and threats, she decided to enlist the help of the private detective who had previously investigated her husband. Together, they went to the scene and waited for the right moment to expose once and for all the truth behind all of Adam's traps. As Evelyn set the stage to reveal the full truth, she found herself faced with unexpected subplots that threatened her safety and added layers of complexity to the revenge. The first was the discovery that Adam was not alone. He had influential allies in the real estate industry and people in the judicial system who protected him in exchange for financial favors and inside information. These were men who would not tolerate exposure of their activities, and Evelyn knew she could not trust anyone in Adam's inner circle. To effectively confront them, she began discreetly gathering allies. With the private detective, he managed to contact Sarah, a former assistant of Adam, who years before had left the company under mysterious circumstances. Sarah revealed disturbing details of Adam's manipulative behavior and how he used people to gain power. Together, Evelyn and Sarah created a network of classified information to monitor Adam's steps, discovering that he planned to flee the country as soon as his image began to crumble. At the same time, Evelyn began receiving anonymous messages, which seemed threatening, but contained important information about Adam's allies. Initially, she believed these messages were from Roy, the mercenary, but soon realized they were coming from an unexpected source, Cliff Henderson, a broker who had once been a close friend of Adam's and knew enough about his frauds to take him down. Cliff was in a delicate position, involved in part of Adam's schemes, but upon realizing how deep his former friend was willing to sink, he decided to help Evelyn unmask him. Tense relations and new pressure. The new alliances brought additional tensions for Evelyn. Sarah and Cliff each had their own interests in exposing Adam, and Evelyn needed to ensure they wouldn't betray her trust. The private detective, always in the shadows, maintained the necessary surveillance while Evelyn coordinated the final plan. Time was against them. Adam had already begun preparations to transfer his fortune to international accounts, and a quick escape seemed inevitable. Evelyn also had to deal with the emotional impact of her struggle. The betrayals were piling up, and the memories of her life with Adam now seemed like a tangle of lies. She understood the weight of the decision she had made in facing his network of influential contacts, and she felt the pressure of each risk. But at the same time, this network of new allies brought support and security, something she hadn't experienced in a long time. Evelyn began to realize that her fight for the truth was also a release from years of manipulation and fear. Pressed for time, Evelyn decided she must act before Adam escaped her clutches. She and Sarah managed to break into Adam's private office one weekend when he was away. There, they found not only overwhelming evidence of the illegal transfers, but also a farewell letter that Adam had written, in which he intended to blame Evelyn for a series of fraudulent transactions in an attempt to turn her into an accomplice in the eyes of justice. The discoveries in the office revealed how deeply Adam was capable of manipulating and lying to maintain his image as a respectable man. The farewell letter was not only a threat to her, but also a final act of cruelty from a man willing to ruin anyone's life to save himself. Evelyn now needed to act quickly. Determined to end that cycle of betrayal and manipulation, she planned to expose Adam during an important business meeting where several of his investors and associates would be present. It would be the ideal time to publicly unmask him, and she was counting on the help of Sarah and the detective to make sure everything went as planned. Evelyn knew it was risky, but needed the public exposure to ensure he didn't escape. That night, while reviewing the details of the plan with Sarah, Evelyn felt for the first time that she was close to a conclusion. The tense silence and weight of decisions were about to come to an end, and her revenge was becoming a personal victory she had never imagined achieving. The day of the big business meeting arrived, where Adam intended to meet with his investors and strategic partners. The event was held at a luxurious hotel in downtown Seattle, a place where he felt in complete control. Adam had planned this meeting to reassure investors following rumors and alleged unfounded accusations about his activities. He didn't know that Evelyn, Sarah, and Cliff had hatched a careful plan to turn this meeting into the ultimate turning point. Evelyn entered the hotel lobby with firm steps. She had prepared herself emotionally for that moment, armed not only with the evidence against Adam, but also with a resolve he had not imagined. Sarah and Cliff were at strategic points, ready to provide support. With the help of the private detective who had experience in undercover operations, they gained access to cameras and audio from the meeting, ensuring that every word Adam said could be recorded. Adam, without suspecting anything, began his speech with his usual confidence, reinforcing that the news about him was nothing more than rumors created by people with dark motives. At one point, he even tried to imply that Evelyn was the source of the rumors, describing her in a way that made her appear emotionally unstable and implying that the tragic loss she suffered had led her to irrational actions. Those present seemed intrigued, some already raising suspicious glances at Adam, while others still seemed convinced by his performance. It was at that moment that Evelyn entered the conference room, interrupting his speech. Her presence froze the air in the room. She walked to the center of the room, ignoring Adam's astonished look and the investors' murmuring, and with the calm of someone who has waited too long, began to reveal the truth. "No more lies, Adam. Everyone present deserves to know what you did and who you really are," said Evelyn, with a firm voice that echoed throughout the room. She exposed Adam's financial fraud, shady contracts, and illegal transfers, showing the evidence she had collected with the help of Sarah and the detective. But the final blow came when she revealed the details of the faked accident, where Adam had tried to take his life to get rid of an inconvenient witness and secure control over her assets. Adam tried to defend himself, his voice wavering and his face red with anger, but the evidence was relentless. Evelyn showed him bank records, signed documents, and even the forged goodbye letter in which he tried to incriminate her. The investors began to murmur among themselves, and some immediately withdrew, making it clear that they wanted to cut all ties with Adam. The final revelation and the fall of Adam. Realizing he was completely exposed, Adam tried one last desperate move. He approached Evelyn and in a low, threatening voice told her that she didn't know who she was dealing with. But when he tried to intimidate her, Adam didn't realize he was being recorded. The detective, discreetly positioned, broadcast the threat live to everyone present, sealing Adam's complete doom. Realizing the magnitude of what he had just done, Adam fell into despair. He knew his influence was destroyed, and the police, alerted by the detective, were already on their way to take him into custody. The remaining investors, outraged, withdrew their offers and threatened to sue him, each determined to distance themselves from any connection with him. Evelyn felt a huge weight lift off her shoulders. After everything she had faced, seeing Adam finally get what he deserved was the closure she had been looking for. The manipulation, the desperation, the abuse of power. It was all coming to an end. With Adam arrested, the repercussions of his actions began to reverberate throughout Seattle. In the days that followed, a flood of news revealed the details of the once respectable businessman's downfall. Leaked documents and testimonies from former collaborators exposed the scope of his fraud and the impact of the illegal transactions he commanded. Companies linked to him faced rigorous investigations, and former allies were now trying to distance themselves as much as possible, seeking to preserve what little credibility they had left. For Evelyn, the victory was not immediate. After the confrontation at the hotel, she still had to face the emotional consequences of everything Adam had done. Over the next few days, she isolated herself, trying to process what it truly meant to be free from the manipulations and threats that had stifled her for so long. Although Adam's fall had been satisfying, she felt the weight of loss and the memories of a relationship she had at one point believed to be real. Relationships with secondary characters. Sarah, Adam's former assistant who had sided with Evelyn, took the opportunity to recount her own experiences of abuse and manipulation at the hands of Adam. Together, she and Evelyn became public advocates for causes that encouraged awareness and support for victims of psychological abuse and financial violence. The two began working on a small campaign which used the impact of the story to motivate other people not to remain silent in the face of abusive relationships and manipulative situations. Cliff Henderson, Adam's former friend and accomplice who decided to help Evelyn, also found himself in a complicated situation. Although he helped expose Adam, he was still the target of investigations for his part in some of the shady transactions. Cliff, however, agreed to cooperate with authorities, providing additional information and documents that helped expand the investigation, dismantling more than just Adam's empire. In exchange for his collaboration, Cliff received a reduced sentence and saw the experience as an opportunity to start over, albeit discreetly and away from the spotlight. With the nightmare that Adam had imposed on her over, Evelyn found the strength to rebuild her life. She regained control of her events company and used part of her time to invest in projects to support and mentor people who, like her, needed a fresh start. The city of Seattle has become its symbol of resilience and a place of renewal. Despite the difficulties, Evelyn found a second chance in the city, surrounded by people who now respected and admired her courage. Finally, Evelyn kept in touch with the private detective who had helped her so much during the investigation. He had become a kind of advisor and friend, someone she could trust without reservation. Together, the two discussed possibilities for the future and ways to continue exposing injustices. As news about Adam and his trial spread, Evelyn finally felt at peace, free to start over without shadows. The satisfaction of seeing Adam pay for his actions was, for her, a necessary closure, a personal justice that brought not only closure to the story, but also the freedom to live again.